Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning, Rabbi.
We are learning Mishnah Eruvin, Perek Beis, Chapter 2, Mishnah 4. I'd like to dedicate today's Mishnah in memory of my mother, Shlomas Bas Rabbi Yaakov Eliezer, and her first yard site is tonight. Okay, Rabbi Yehuda Omer. Rabbi Yehuda says, now again, continuing with the laws regarding the well in the public domain and the double boarded poles that we have at each end. Rabbi Yehuda says, now let's say there's a public path that goes through this. So you've got the well, you've got the four boards, the four double boards in the corner, you've got whatever boards in the middle you may have up there, and there's a public path going right through it. That's because don't forget we're in the middle of a public domain, right? That's what we're in the middle of. So you've got this water hole in the public domain. You created the halachic walls around it, but there's still a space, and there are people walking straight through it. If there was a path of the public that was now interrupting, going through this area with the enclosed area with the well, you move the path over to the side. If you continue allowing the path to go through, it's going to mess up the entire thing. What you got to do is you have to tell the people, move over to the side, please, not around this area, and walk around. That's Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. The Chachamim say, you don't need. We don't care if there are people walking through. There could be hundreds and hundreds of people walking through. It doesn't make a difference. These double boards at the corner around the well, with whatever boards are needed in the middle to close up the gaps is enough. It works even if you've got people walking through it. Next, Echad. Now the Mishnah is going to be discussing a machlokes as to where exactly, in what situation exactly, did the Chachamim allow this whole pasei birois, these boards with the well to be done? Because as we mentioned previously, midaraisa, it could work almost anywhere. But the Chachamim only let it be used for the Oiler Regalim, for the people going for Yantav to Yerushalayim. And they also limited in other situations where we allow you to use it. So the Mishnah continues, Echad bar harabim, whether we're talking about a public water pit. Okay, now a bar is where the rainwater gathers. It's not a well, which is typically where it has a spring. It just means it's a water hole. It's a hole where the rainwater gathers, but it's a public one. Ube'er harabim, or a public well. Public well means it's public and it has it's really coming from a spring in the ground. Ube'er hayachid, or a well of an individual. Again, that means it's a spring. Oisim lehem pasim. For all of these, we can make these double boards at the corners. Avolabar hayachid. But if we're talking about an individual bar, that means a water hole that belongs to an individual person, not used by many people, you have to make for that a wall 10 tvachim high, a regular wall 10 tvachim high. This whole thing with the double boards at the corners, not going to work in that kind of situation. Di Rabbi Akiva, these are the words of Rabbi Akiva. Now, the point is like this. The point is that but when you're dealing with some of the examples have one type of advantage, some of them have a different type of advantage, and some of them have none of the advantage. So if you think, so here's the point. The point is that the Chachamim were concerned that if you have one of these kind of water sources that dry up, there's no more water in it, then this whole process with the walls, with these walls, possibly rice that we're discussing, doesn't work anymore. It doesn't work anymore. The Chachamim don't allow you to use it anymore. So the problem is, the Chachamim are concerned that maybe, people are going to be in there trying to, use the water. They're going to use the water up. The water is going to dry up. The water is going to be used up. And since a little while ago you were carrying around in that area, people are going to think you can continue. They're going to think they can still get water out of there, or they're going to still carry whatever was carried typically when they were giving the animals to drink, and they're not supposed to do that anymore. So the Chachamim were concerned that shouldn't happen. So according to Rabbi Akiva, let's take a look at each case. Rabbi Akiva said you could use the pasei birois by a public water hole. Why is that? Because by a public water hole, again, the water could dry up, but a lot of people are there to use it. And if it dries up, people are going to say, hey, there's no more water in there. You can't carry. The more people around, the more people will remind everyone, you can't use it anymore if the water dries up. If it's a be'er, if it's a well, that means it's a spring, then typically it doesn't dry up. You don't have to be concerned it's going to dry up. So therefore, according to Rabbi Akiva, as long as you have one of these advantages, such as the public water hole, you have the people there to remind you. Any kind of be'er, any kind of source that's a spring, whether it's individual or it's public, it's a spring that typically doesn't dry up. There we allow the possibility rise. There we allow you to go ahead and make the poles or the double boards at the corners with whatever more has to be done. That's Rabbi Akiva's opinion. Rabbi ben Bava says, now this is really okay. Rabbi ben Bava says, it's very interesting. I don't see anybody talking about this right now, but it's very interesting that you have this be'er hayachad. You have this private be'er, this private well, right? And that means it's private. That means there are not a lot of people using it, right? Nonetheless, we're allowing you to do this whole process of making the Pasabi rice. The whole Pasabi rice we're allowed for those going up to Yontif. So I guess you could have a situation where you have a person who's going up for Yontif. He lands up around a private, water source that for every reason a lot of people aren't using. That's private. And you can still possibly do this Pasabi rice because you're going up for Yontif. I would have thought it only makes sense to be happening where a lot of people are using it because you have a group of people going up for Yontif. But you could have, I guess, a situation where you're not going to have, a lot of people passing by a certain area, and this water source is for some reason private. It's not used. It's not used a lot by other people, and we say we can use it, unless for some reason we're talking about it. Rabbi Akiva holds you could use it anytime, but I didn't see that anywhere. It would seem that it was only something you can do for you going up for Yontif. So you could have a situation where you're going up for Yontif, and again, it's a water source that's only used by one person. And so we say that if it's a spring, according to Rabbi Akiva, you can do the Pasabi rice. If it's not, you can't. If you hear the Ben Bava says, he says the opposite. Ein oisen pasin. You can only do these boards only for a public well, meaning for something that has both advantages. Number one, it's public. So if anything were to happen to it, somebody would let you know there's no more water. And number two, the chances of it drying up are very small because it's a spring. When you have both advantages, that's what the Mitzvah says you can do it. That's when you can make this whole system. For the sha'ar, but for anything else, even for a public water hole, you got to make a belt, which really means a regular wall 10 tefachim high around it. Then you cannot rely on this Pasabi rice leniency in order to get the water. Have a wonderful day and a wonderful Shabbos. I just want to remind everyone that there will not be a Mishnah's class tomorrow or for the next couple of days, and there'll be a notification as to when we'll resume. Okay. Have a wonderful day, wonderful Shabbos.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Good Shabbos.
So I don't